Federal Drive is presented by GEHA, Government Employees Health Association, proudly providing health and dental benefits to federal employees and their families. Visit GEHA.com.
Keeping water systems running requires remote access for monitoring, maintenance, and vendor support. Securing those connections has become a growing priority for utilities that rely on operational technology every day. A new NIST guide offers practical approaches for doing exactly that. And here to discuss it is CheeYee Tang, an electronic engineer at NIST. Mr. Tang, thanks so much for joining me today. It's great to have you on the show.
I'm happy to be here.
We're going to talk about cybersecurity. And when we do that, generally, I think people think about cybersecurity and data or computers. You've got a new report out, though, that focuses on operational technology, specifically ones that move and treat water. Why is OT security such a different challenge?
Well, OT technology work in a different environment. So safety, reliability, often under unique operating environment. So all of those factors are important to work for an OT environment. For example, for the water and wastewater system. So that makes a tremendous difference than the IT system. The OT system require a lot different attention because of the system behave differently or work differently than a pure IT system. That's why OT has a big challenge. For example, the OT system could be a very long lifetime. It could be like 15, 20 or even more that the equipment can last that long. So to address those systems, we require very specific security measure to do that.
Your report specifically focuses on remote access for operational technology. Why did you identify that as such an immediate high priority issue for the water sector?
Well, based on our survey to the industry and some of our research work, we identify a few things. For example, network asset management, network segmentation, and remote access, they are all important. But all of those, it appears to us that remote access is the top priority of many respondents on the survey and the industry concern. That's why we start with that.
And what are the threats to the water system specifically that you're worried about?
Well, for the remote access, we worry about like unauthorized access to the remote sites of the water system. Some of those remote sites are unmanned, and they do have the control equipment, and they do have the ability to disrupt the operating of the water system. So if an unauthorized intruder hack into those systems, they could have the potential to disrupt the normal operation and also may cause a system failure.
I suspect that the average person only thinks about water when they turn on the tap or when they buy a bottle at the store. So when you think about this operational technology and remote access for maintenance and monitoring and vendor support, how does it create that opportunity for unauthorized access that you're just talking about?
So, like you said, the maintenance, like the maintenance and the support, they are huge efficiency enhancer. So people can remotely access some of the equipment, and they don't have to physically go there. So it helps increase the operation efficiency. But on the exact opposite side, if you have people like with a bad intention trying to through the same channel get into those equipment, then they may have the ability to do some bad impact to the system. They could disrupt and stop the water. They could potentially change the content of the water system. So those are the things that we worry that will be impacting the normal operation and the safe delivery of drinking water and treatment of wastewater.
Even though clean water is certainly a public asset, many of the water plants and utilities are contractor operated, if not privately owned. How does that change the risk profile here?
Well, to our knowledge, that many of them, they are different sizes of operation. So it could be, like you said, it could be the operator operating it. It could be a contractor operating it. So the water sector has a wide variety of different operation in terms of size and operation and expertise in the cybersecurity sense of in that manner. So that create a problem is we saw that a larger capability water system, they may have the resources and the knowledge to defend their system. But we also see that a lot of smaller capability water system, they may not have that expertise. So that may create a problem that some of the system are more vulnerable than the others.
CheeYee Tang is an electronic engineer at NIST. So CheeYee, let's follow on with what you were just talking about, different sizes of operations, different staffs, different budgets. How did that reality shape the architectures and solutions that NIST chose to demonstrate here?
So in our publication, we developed 3 different reference architecture. The intention is to showcase a different way to protect your system. One of them is more classic. The other one is more using based on cloud computing. That will give the advantage of for a smaller scale system that may be able to take advantage of that. That require a little less expertise and have a more budget-friendly entry cost, so that they can still have a secure remote access, but they do have a little bit more flexibility and scalability on the deployment.
If you were a utility manager listening today and you could only do one thing to improve the security of your water treatment plant, looking at this article, what would you hope that they would do first?
That's a hard question, Terry. That's the hard is not because of what's the technology can do, but hard is you only can pick one thing, right? So security, as often as security comes as a package, and any weak link may be exploited by the malicious actor. So we try to have a whole package that make this whole system secure. Now, but if I have to pick, that one thing I think is to strengthen your authentication or access control to your remote access site, so that you have a stronger authentication scheme and also combined with a stronger access control, so that you can more protect in that way. Now, that doesn't mean that solve all your problem, as I have to re-emphasize that is a whole package. But if you have to do something, you have to pick, I think that is something, authentication and access control is something you want to consider.
Oftentimes when I ask that weakest link question, I get a technology answer. And many times we find out that, in fact, the people in the system are the weakest link. What are you seeing as the best training or preparation for the humans in this loop to help prevent malicious access?
That's a very good observation. As we say to protect the whole system, technology only play a part of it. So the policy, so the organization governance and the whole training and the policy environment does do the whole thing. So as you said, it is a human operating system. So all the control system, all the equipment and automation is only helping the human to do their job more efficiently. So the training and the policy of the organization does play an important role in how to protect the overall security.
And your guide says that these concepts apply beyond water utilities to OT environments more generally. What lessons should federal agencies and other critical infrastructure operators take from this work and apply in different situations?
So many critical infrastructure operators, they have very similar challenge and very similar operating environment. So we think that the lesson we develop, or the lesson we learn, or the reference architecture we develop in this publication, it could be used by other sectors, at least in the high level and architecture level. You may have to modify a little bit in the detail on how you deploy it, but in the general concept, in the general how you secure the remote access, we think that's a good example for the other sector to consider.
CheeYee Tang is an electronic engineer at NIST. Thank you so much for your time today and for this really helpful reference.
Thank you.
We'll post this interview at federalnewsnetwork.com/Federal Drive. Subscribe to the Federal Drive wherever you get your podcasts.